Is so exciting. Singer-songwriter, author, actress, entrepreneur, right? Jewel, it's so great to have you here, but also David Malukas, your second year racing in the Indy 500, driver of the number 18 for Dale Coyne with HMD Racing. This is so cool because I think there are so many connections I think that maybe the two of you have, but I want to start with, this is really the second time for both of you. So Jewel, you're singing the national anthem for the second time here. David, you're running it for the second time. So I want to hear what this is like.
So last season, coming down Gasoline Alley for my first time, it was definitely very nerve-wracking, many different feelings that I was getting at that moment, but then again, very excited. And of course, I have a mental coach to go through all of it. I feel like drivers don't really talk about it too much. It's all about physicality. Oh yeah, my neck is strong, got the muscles, I'm ready to go. But I feel like, you know, all of it is up there. And so with my mental coach, he gives me different techniques and different things to tell me. And anytime I tell him, you know, it's like, hey, people say being nervous is kind of a bad thing, right? Generally, it's, oh, you know, it's, you don't want to be saying it. But my coach told me, hey, you know, live into it. Like, if you're nervous, that's because you care. And realistically, the way your body reacts is the same way you're excited. So you could always just tell yourself that you're just very excited for the occasion.
So how would you describe yourself in this moment getting ready for tomorrow's race?
Generally, I actually feel quite calm. You know, coming in from a second time, I mean, then again, once I feel like come into the circuit and see 325,000 people all looking down, it's definitely going to be a different feeling, and I don't think you can be mentally prepared to experience that. I feel like whatever emotions you feel, you're just going to have to accept and go through them.
Wow. Can you relate to what he's saying?
Yeah, I think definitely. You know, it's funny that so few people really talk about what it is to manage our minds and our thoughts and our feelings, but we all have minds and thoughts and feelings, and so we are always managing them. And sometimes more successfully than others. And so to be able to have strategies is really important. And nobody's, you know, ashamed to talk about flossing. Why would anybody be ashamed to talk about, yeah, I have nerves and I got to figure out how to channel this.
Right, so what's it like for you getting ready to do what you're about to do, singing the national anthem here in front of this crowd at this event?
I find it really interesting because I like nerves and I like pressure a lot, you know, and I think there's a lot of people that enjoy that and really thrive on it. And you do learn how to channel that so it gives you extra energy, because it can get away from you and it can just cause you to lose your ability to focus. So it's kind of like riding a wave or riding something powerful. I'm also fascinated because sometimes the body has its own reaction. Like I remember doing the anthem at a Super Bowl once, and I knew the song, I was really prepared, I was really calm, and when I stepped up to the mic, my heart rate did its own thing. Really? And that made me out of breath. And I was like, oh wait, now I have to sing this out of breath, and that was so different. And it was just like my body almost having its own animal reaction to just the volume of people. And so you just learn being around long enough that you just figure it out if you have to.
How did you get through that song out of breath?
You just learn to manage, you know, it's funny, you luckily experience really pays off, and you just figure out what to do, and you lean on that, you know, trusting yourself. You can't change what you ignore, you know, so I think people that say, you know, that's why disassociating just doesn't work very well, and that's why you know, the person who works with you says move toward it, because then you can start to change it and work with it, because it's biochemical. We have to work with that chemistry in our bodies.
What are the types of things that drivers deal with related to that, where with your body reaction during the race or before the race?
Yeah, it could be, I mean, so many different situations, especially if you, let's say, have, you know, a bad practice session or a bad run before a race. And, you know, of course, you go online and you start seeing hate comments and different things. And for me, last season, being a rookie, I would see comments, you know, where it's, oh, he's a rookie, he doesn't belong here, you know, and he kind of needs to, you know, show that worth, right? Like, I have to work here, and people only see what's right in front of you. And of course, you know, I read that and you tell yourself, oh, it won't affect me, it's okay, it's just some random person, I can move forward. But like she said, you can't ignore these feelings, you can't ignore your emotions, you can try to, but they're always gonna be there. And the best advice I ever got in, you know, for these situations is to accept those feelings, go into them, learn how to manipulate them so that in the end, you know, it could be better for you. And so now, you know, if I see messages or certain things like that, I always use the teaching that I was taught from my mental coach, which was to reassure myself, tell myself everything I've done to get to this point. Every time I go out there, do I have the confidence to win a race? You know, if I'm out there to be successful, look at the past moments that I've had and kind of put that all together and then I can finally move on, and I'd be like, you know what, no, that he's wrong, he doesn't understand the full story of it, and I still do believe in myself.
It's sort of like, I love what you've talked about, making anxiety your ally, right? I feel like that's the same thing that David's talking about.
Yeah, I think that just like we've learned to curate our diet, we know eating certain things makes us feel bad. We have to curate what we're thinking and feeling and what we're willing to ingest. Because a lot of times, anxiety is a side effect of a thought, a feeling, or an action that we're ingesting, just like you feel physically sick if you eat bad fish or something like that. Your body's having a reaction to that. And so, like, for me, learning to limit, like, I don't look at my social media, I don't look at things like that, especially if I know I have to be in a certain mental state. And so I'll restrict my ability to intake that information.
Is that hard to do?
No, not really. Just
Okay.
for me, it's just discipline. Just like, sometimes it's like you want to eat the potato chip, but you've learned not to. It's like, you just kind of learn to restrict. Other times I can read that stuff, but in certain moments I know I can't read that going into this. And so you just learn that kind of discipline. And then with what he said, it's not just having a positive thought. It's what thing do you want to underline in your mind? Do you want to underline? And for me, it's telling myself the truth. Things that are true about me that I can rely on, that I've proven to myself over and over. So it's not just like, it's going to be great. It's not like that. It's like, I've really prepared for this, or, things like that are really true.
Do you feel like maybe early on in your career, did you have the same type of struggle where it's like you're trying not to listen to that stuff, but it seeps in? Did you have experiences like that?
I think for all of us in the public eye, you really have to learn, a part of you needs to take feedback because we have to be coachable. And we are in an environment where, I'm in the service industry, people do need to like my music, it's important, but you can't let it wag the dog, as it were. And so I think part of maturing in these industries is you have to learn which opinions you're really going to take deeply and which ones you only let come, not even skin deep.
Is that how you feel? And you've built a little team around you, sort of.
Of course, yeah. It feels very similar. When I go out for a race, I mean, personally now I kind of just, I've gotten much better throughout this past season that I don't really let those things come in, like she said, you restrict yourself, and through all the reassurance that I've gotten, I kind of just am now looking at more of me, and myself, and the race car, and I'm just having a very good time. I love every time I go out there, and every time I put my helmet on, everything kind of just can snap out of it, and I can just focus what's at hand and just enjoy the moment of racing at the Indianapolis 500.
What's the biggest thing you learned from last year that you're able to take with you going into this race?
Oh, so many different things when it comes to driving and from outside, talking with people and kind of getting settled. But I'd say the main thing, just the simplest thing for me, was that the race is very, very long. And that caught me off guard. I mean, whatever I thought was long, it was tenfold.
Really?
Yeah, I remember going on the radio. I'm like, okay, this is the last set, right? They're like, nope, we have 4 more stops. So, yeah, and I was out of water. It was a bit of a disaster. So I was kind of trying to make it to the end. It was a very long race, but in the end, we went through it. So this time I'm mentally going to be prepared. It's a long one. Take my time with it.
How thirsty were you at the end?
I was very, very thirsty. Actually, I couldn't even get out of the car. So when they came back, they had to actually pull me out and kind of help me out. And then I sat, and of course, since we're going in a circle, once I got out, actually, I was very dizzy. So I was sitting with my head tilted a little bit to the left, because if I went to the right, everything started to spin. So I was sitting there, all hunched over with water. It was something I've never experienced before.
And to join with camaraderie, I decided to sing every single verse of the national anthem extra long, just to like, 'cause I feel for you guys and I want to be there.
I think the crowd will absolutely love it. Freewheeling Woman, I would love to know, I was reading about how you did that and what the process was behind it. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, the new album's called Freewheeling Woman. It's the first album I've written from scratch. Historically, I've always had thousands of songs in my back catalog, and so I just pick songs. And instead of doing that this time, I really wanted it to be who I was now. I'm 49, 2 days ago. And it's fun. It's fun for me to be my age in this business that isn't that kind to women. And I love my age. I love being this age. I love where I'm at with my talent. And so I wanted the whole album to reflect that.
And how many songs are in the final album?
12.
Wow,
Yeah.
Okay.
It was a lot.
Oh my
it was a lot of
Very
work.
impressive,
I fought
okay.
for it.
So how did you choose the final 12?
they're the only 12 ones I liked.
But that's also fascinating. I didn't realize that, and this is going to sound kind of simple, but I didn't understand that a lot of artists do that with back catalogs, just not being in that industry.
I don't know if a lot of artists do. I just was always prolific, so I was just lucky. I never had to write an album, yeah.
Wow. It's like your toolbox. What's in your toolbox of racing strategy?
I've gone through many pre-race rituals of meditation. That is something that I've found to do, and personally I needed, I use certain apps and certain tools, and of course once I have my mental coach, he guides me through them, and now I just put on some sort of headphones. Obviously in a racetrack I put noise canceling ones on to try to cut all the noise off, and I put some sort of white noise in the background, if it could be, personally I really like, just thunderstorms, something just very peaceful, and then I just kind of let my thoughts go, and my meditation is very different. It's not very controlling. It's just whatever thought goes through my head. I'll be closing my eyes. I think of a bagel. I'm thinking about a bagel now, and I kind of just let those thoughts go through, and it kind of makes me happy because it makes me forget about all the stress around me. And then once I go in the car, I feel very refreshed.
Jewel, do you have a ritual or something that you make sure to do each time before you go on stage?
What he was saying is there's a lot of science behind it, in case people don't know. Because a lot of people think meditation means you should have no thoughts, which is really hard. We have thoughts. And so every time you notice you're having a thought, that's actually the goal of meditation, is just noticing it. Like, oh, I was thinking about a bagel. That's actually a neurological bicep curl that helps you be present. And the reason being present is so important is because that helps you be there to make a decision. When you're not present or you catch something late, you aren't going to be able to react as quickly as someone else. And so it gives you a tremendous advantage, which is why we're doing so much. I have a mental health company, and that's why we train so many people to meditate, is because there's also neurochemical response. Your blood pressure dilates, you relax, your blood pressure lowers. It's different, like calming neurochemicals, and so it really works.
Mm-hmm. And so what you've created is called Inner World.
Yeah.
Right, and it's a virtual mental health platform.
Yeah.
What more should we know about that? It sounds so helpful and impactful.
Yeah. So Inner World is kind of between meditation, where you can learn to meditate on an app, and one-on-one therapy. And so what we do is you can come on through just your iPad or your iPhone. You can also use it in VR goggles, but you come in and there's a community of live people, and then we teach DBT and CBT skills. And so you could come in just for anxiety, or just for social anxiety, or just for grief. Yeah, and we teach skills in these sort of anonymous but group settings.
Wow.
Yeah, it's fun.
That is very
You'd really
good.
like it.
So if you just get any certain moment, let's say you get a panic attack, you can open up the app and there's always going to be somebody there waiting for you. Wow, that's very cool.
Yeah, and I want it to be just affordable, real help. And then again, based on these scientifically proven tools, we're also a clinical research platform. So again, anonymously, we do track outcomes to make sure that everybody's getting the benefit, because results matter. We want people to feel better. I just think this is so important. I moved out at 15. I started having panic attacks at 15. I became agoraphobic, which is a fear of leaving your home. I became homeless by 18. I was in a lot of trouble, and so I had to find a way to make myself feel better, but I didn't have access to therapy. I didn't have the money for traditional things, and I had to find tools. And for me, I started inventing behavioral tools, because I noticed if I affect how I'm acting or what I'm thinking, my body felt differently. And so that's what started to get me into this type of stuff. And then I formed a foundation to see if these tools could work for other people with or without therapy. Turns out they can, and then now, of course, there's CBT and DBT, very well-studied scientific tools.
Do you think that there was something that you can now look back on and say, that was the it that made you make it, having to deal with all of those things that you were dealing with at the time?
I think for me, one, it was just the commitment not to give up. Just stubbornly saying, I'm going to do something different today than I did yesterday and see if it makes me feel better. I'm not going to do something final, and I'm just going to keep trying.
What was it that you used as a tool to do that?
The very first thing, and why mindfulness is so powerful, is because you have to learn to be present. If we're going to change anything in our lives, we actually have to be there in real time, so that as we notice we're angry, or as we notice we're having, self-defeating thoughts, we can do something about it. And so that's like getting your car off of autopilot and into neutral. But we can't live in neutral. We have to go somewhere in life. We have actions. And so that's where you want a behavioral tool. Now that you're present, now that you are abstaining from a knee-jerk reaction, what do I want to replace that with? And so for me, it was learning to replace dealing with writing. I was a very prolific thief, so I became a very prolific writer.
There's so many questions there. I love that, but it's also really about, through conversations, you realize the focus is really what it takes. And it's what you're talking about with the racing, it's what you're talking about with focusing on the feeling and the anxiety that you're leaning into. With racing, not to take this off on a tangent, but have you thought about what it would mean to you to become the youngest winner of the 500 if you could do this tomorrow?
I can think, about the feeling and have dreams and imagine about it, but I already know that if that were to ever happen, whatever I would do, it definitely would just be very randomized, and I don't know what I'd be doing or thinking, but it would be definitely a massive rush of emotions. It would definitely clear out, many different things that I have always in the back of my head when I'm on track, and getting a win like that that's been my dream. Since I've been a little kid, I've watched it on TV every day, watching Dixon and Power, and growing up, I never imagined that I would actually be here with the opportunity to get that win.
With Dixon and Power.
With
right?
Dixon and Power, exactly. Yeah, I was outside of my house in the garage, just in a circle, pretending I'm racing with them, and now I'm actually here in real life, side by side with them.
Jewel and David, thank you guys so much. This is such a great conversation.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you have a book or something? Because there is so much knowledge coming from you that I would love to just put in a book and read every day.
I really
It is
appreciate
incredible.
that.
It is really incredible. And I mean, having listened to your music for years, it's just so awesome. And understanding what your story is and what you're doing now and turning it around to help so many people like this is pretty amazing.
Well, thank you. Yeah.
Good
It
luck
was so
to
nice
you.
to meet
Yes,
you. Good
thank
luck.
you.
I can't wait to
Good luck
watch.
to you
Yes,
too.
and good luck to you. Yes, of course.
I know. Don't mess up the anthem.
Kick it off. Don't get out of breath, right?
I know.
That's a great story, though. I don't know.
Well, now I'll be thinking about it. I'll be like, oh, is she out of breath? Is she
Yeah.
changing it? Is she
I
on
know.
it?
Did you
No,
do?
what you'll be thinking is she's done in 2 minutes.
Let me go. Let me go race. Awesome. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.